Today I will be testing the Canon RF 24-70mm f2.8 L IS USM lens. This lens was released back in 2019. It's not a new lens, but it's still one of the most popular and important lenses for the RF mount, because this lens is a workhorse, clearly designed for professional photographers in mind. You can easily tell it is built to last and perform under tough conditions. And it has an excellent image quality, built-in optical stabilization, fast focus, and weather sealing. On the other hand, this lens also has two minor quirks that I found a bit annoying. We will talk about them later in the review. This lens is compatible with all RF mount cameras and designed to cover a full-frame sensor. On APS-C sensor RF mount cameras, the focal range becomes an equivalent to a 38 to 112mm thanks to the 1.6x crop factor. This is not very useful on the wide end, but the extra reach can come handy for portrait, event, street and landscape photography. The 24-70mm f2.8 has an MSRP price of $2,399 but the last time I checked, it was selling for $2,099, $300 below MSRP price. It's not a cheap lens, but compared to other 24-70mm f2.8 lenses from the original manufacturers, it's priced similarly. Canon L series lenses are some of the best built camera lenses in the industry, and the 24-70mm doesn't disappoint. I can't find any issues with the build quality, materials or tolerances. The lens is a magnesium alloy body, metal mount, and it feels rugged. This lens weighs 900 grams, has a length of 126mm and a diameter of 88mm. Besides, this is an external zoom design, so the length of the lens extends almost 2 inches when zoomed out. This is a hefty lens, but it still balances well even with smaller bodies such as the Canon's EOS R8. On the other hand, compared to Sony's 24-70mm f2.8 GM2 lens, Canon is significantly larger and heavier. But on Canon's credit, it has a built-in optical image stabilization system that the Sony lacks. The petal-shaped lens hood is plastic and weighs 34 grams. It doesn't have a window to adjust the polarizer or ND filters, as the Sony GM2 does. The hood can be reversed for storage. When it is reversed, it partially blocks the control ring, but the focus and zoom rings can still be used. The 24-70 is weather sealed as all other L series lenses. The only visible seal is the gasket on the camera mount. L series lenses have been used by professionals in all kinds of weather conditions for years, so I don't have any doubt about the level of resistance on this lens. There's an AF/MF switch, a stabilizer on and off switch, and a zoom lock switch on the body. These switches are conveniently located and their sizes are large enough. I don't think you actually need the zoom lock on this lens, as the lens doesn't seem to creep, although it may loosen in the long term. The zoom ring is the largest and the closest to the camera body. It's tight but still turns smoothly. It takes less than 90 degrees rotation to go from 24 to 70mm. The focusing is by wire, but it's very responsive and feels natural. Besides the zoom and the focus rings, there's an additional control ring on the front section of the lens that can be programmed to change different settings such as ISO, aperture or shutter speed. Alternatively, you can disable this to avoid accidental change of the settings. On a smaller camera body with less physical controls, such as the R8, this extra ring comes handy. This brings us to the first quirk with this camera. The control ring on this lens is surprisingly loud. Don't know what Canon was thinking. Do we really need such strong audible feedback? Here you can hear how the built-in mic captures the clicking sound. If this clicking sound is not acceptable for you, Canon offers a control ring modification service. If you send the lens to Canon service and pay $79, they will remove the click sound for you. Canon employed its Nano USM focusing motor on this lens. It's extremely fast but smooth at the same time, and also silent, which are all great for video work. Tracking is excellent, and I haven't experienced any issues that can be related to the lens itself. Focus breathing is minimal at both 24mm and 70mm focal ranges. If you do a lot of focus pulls in video or need precise framing in stills mode, this is a very welcome feature. Besides, if you have a camera body that has the focus breathing correction feature, the little breathing on this lens will totally be eliminated. Alright, here comes my second quirk. Close-up behavior of this lens is a little strange. The maximum magnification is rated at 0.30x, which is respectable, but it gives this value only at 32mm focal length. I wouldn't be bothered if it was at one of the extreme focal lengths, but 32mm is odd and hard to adjust, to be honest. The max magnification is 0.24x at 24mm and 0.22x at 70mm. The optical image stabilization on the 24-70mm is rated effective up to 5 stops. This comes very handy on cameras such as the R8, which doesn't have sensor-based image stabilization system. However, during my tests with the Canon R8, I have found that the IS was effective up to only 3 stops, both at the wide end and tele end. In video, results were much better when combined with the digital image stabilization. The optical structure of the 24-70mm consists of 21 elements in 15 groups. The lens also has rounded 9-blade diaphragm. Regarding the sharpness, this lens is very sharp across the focal range, but the wide end performs a little better than the tele end in general. I have to say that I tested the lens on R8's 24-megapixel sensor, so the results may be a little different on more demanding cameras such as the 45-megapixel EOS R5. At 24mm, the resolution and contrast is already very impressive at f2.8, but the corners improve when you stop down to f4 and tops out at f8. The situation is similar at 70mm, although the overall contrast is a bit lower, especially at the corners of the frame. Overall, this lens is impressively sharp, probably one of the best 24-70mm lenses ever, and I don't think it will let you down in any real-world scenarios. Chromatic aberrations on this lens are well controlled in general. You can find some lateral chromatic aberrations, mostly only on the 24mm and 70mm end of the focal range, especially at the extreme corners of the frame with strong contrast. The mid-focal ranges are cleaner. Lateral chromatic aberrations are easier to correct in post-processing, so I'm not concerned much about it on this lens. Regarding the longitudinal chromatic aberrations, these are more visible towards the tele end of the focal range, but they never become really distractive. This lens has barrel distortion at the 24mm wide end, but it's surprisingly very low. At the long end, it shows pincushion distortion. Both of these are effectively corrected by the lens profiles. Here is a demonstration of the distortions with and without the lens profiles. This lens has somewhat strong vignetting at 24mm, but this is corrected by the lens profiles as well. Flare and ghosting are generally well controlled. When stopped down to a smaller aperture, like f16 and above, the flare effects are intensified. Overall, considering its complex optical formula, this lens handles flare and ghosting nicely, and the loss of contrast is minimal. This lens's 9-blade aperture produces beautiful 18-point sun stars in high aperture values. Thanks to the 9-rounded blade diaphragm and good optical design and the fast aperture, the bokeh is smooth and not distracting. But still, I think Canon optimized this lens for sharpness, but not for perfecting the rendering of the out-of-focus areas. The number of native alternatives to this lens is very limited. Since Canon opens the RF mount to third-party manufacturers in a very limited way, we don't have any Sigma or Tamron lenses in this focal range. All we have left are other Canon RF lenses, unless you want to take the route of using Canon's EF lenses with an adapter. The Canon 28-70mm f2 is a monster of a lens. It's no doubt a special one, but it's much bigger, heavier and more expensive than the 24-70mm f2.8. It also lacks the optical image stabilization. The Canon 24-105mm f4 has a more versatile focal range, smaller and cheaper, but one stop slower than the 24-70mm at the same time. The recently announced 24-105mm f2.8 was not available as of this review, and just like the 28-70mm f2, it's larger and more expensive. The Canon RF 24-70mm f2.0 is an ideal lens for weddings and events, portraits, landscape, street and photojournalism. On the other hand, it's not an ideal lens for wildlife, sports and macro photography. So here I have summarized the pros and cons that I have experienced with this lens. Pros are excellent image quality across the focal range, optical image stabilization, best-in-class build quality, fast and silent focusing, minimal focus breath-in, low chromatic aberrations, well-controlled flare and ghosting, and the programmable control ring. And the cons are, the control ring is noisy, it's heavier than the competition, max magnification is achieved at 32mm, and tested only 3 stops of IS with the EOS R8. In addition, I have also listed features that I think would be nice to have, and they are D-click switch for the control ring, focus hold button, and a window on the lens hood. Thanks for staying till the very end of this video. If you have any questions or comments about this lens, please share in the comments section. And if you have found this review helpful, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. This gives us the motivation to come up with more camera and lens reviews in the future.